I spent way too many years of my precious life hating myself, shrinking myself for other people's approval, literally living as just a shell of myself to feel like I fit in, which then left me feeling more resentment and just quite literally hating myself because I didn't even know who I was. But at the time, I didn't realize that. I just felt like I hated me just as is, but I didn't hate myself. I hated the version of myself that I was creating for others' approval. And while I don't live in regret and I'm very happy with the life that I'm living now and that I've created, I quite literally would not be here filming this video if I didn't go through everything I went through. However, if there was one thing I could go back and change, it would be this. So take this video as a warning if you feel like you relate to the version of myself that I'm speaking about. It is not worth your time cosplaying and shape-shifting and living in self-hatred. It is not worth it. I know it feels easier right now, but it will only make your life more miserable and undesirable in the long run. I'm Danae. I help women go get paid by deprogramming you from the noise so you can go live a life that actually feels like yours. And today I really want to discuss this period of my life where I just hated myself truthfully, which is just so even hard to say and to think that, wow, I lived so many years with this just the horrible energy coming out of me, but I just hated myself and how I overcame that, the things I did, the mindset work that I did to become this confident version of myself who loves every piece of me to bits. So a big reason I really wanted to make this as well is because I think that when we think of self-hatred, we often only think about physical things. I hate this physical aspect of myself, or things that are more tangible. So whether it's like a personality style or the way you react to something or whatever the case may be. And while I did experience that, and there were things that I was bullied about that I hated, and that played a role in all of this, which I'll talk about, I realized that you can be living and hating yourself without even realizing and even having a fake sense of confidence because you are living an identity that is not truly. I felt for most of my life this general sense of dread, despair. Now, when I look back and I can see the life I was living, I wasn't living a life that was aligned with me. I hated who I was because as I was playing and shape-shifting into different people to feel like I fit in. How did this manifest? So you can see if you're living in this way too, because maybe you feel like I'm pretty confident, I like how I looked, or maybe you don't, but maybe there's a deeper layer here, right? So a way this would show up for me, for example, in university, I became a party girl, I would say, and I hated it. It literally drained my soul. I didn't like it. I actually prefer more intimate settings and vibes, but I played into this archetype because I thought that's what I had to do in university and what everyone else was doing, at least the people I was surrounded by. And of course, that's going to create a cycle of resentment towards me. When I think about it now, it blows my mind because it was every weekend I was going out, I was going to these parties, I was doing these things. I would feel guilt, I would feel shame, I'd feel physically and emotionally depleted, and then just continue doing it over and over again. Obviously, this is going to lead you to hate yourself because you're not even acting in who you're aligned with, as an example. That's why now I'm so confident and shamelessly me. I don't drink, I don't party, I don't do this, I don't do that, because I know how horrible it is for you to live in a way that doesn't align with your nature and your energy and what it's telling your subconscious mind. And that leads to another great way of being able to figure out if you have true confidence, if you really love yourself, is what comes out of your subconscious mind. So in times when things are not going well, or things are going well, or you're just yapping away with a friend and it just goes on and then something just comes out, are the things that come out about who you are and what you say you believe and what you do, are they congruent with what you think? In your dreams, what are the phrases? What is happening? Before you go to bed, how do you feel? Do you feel like you always have to clog your mind? Because if you didn't clog your mind, you would hear things that you didn't like. So my self-talk in my subconscious mind used to be very negative. Oh, you're so dumb. Oh, you don't look good in this outfit or whatever. All the negative things that you can think of. That's how my self-talk used to be. Now I'm so confident in who I am because my self-talk, no matter what I do, no matter how bad I mess up, is so dang sweet and angelic. And I find it such a beautiful journey because then you respect yourself more, and what you tolerate from other people, whether it's a loved one, romantic partner, a friendship or whatever, you tolerate less from them because of the way you actually treat yourself and speak to yourself. If you treat yourself and say sweet things to yourself and you're kind with yourself and you act in discipline, so you trust yourself, you're going to expect at the bare minimum that from anyone else that's coming into your life. So for me, my self-talk was just horrible throughout most of my life. And obviously, what you believe in your subconscious mind is what you believe to be true. So whether I said I was confident or posted hot pictures on the internet or whatever I was doing, it didn't mean anything, because what was coming out when I would write and I would journal, that's what the reality was. Be honest. What does your self-talk really sound like? What if somebody could go in your head and hear the thoughts you had about yourself? Would they say, babe, you might need to go to therapy? Or would they be like, wow, how did you get there? I think another way to tell if you have true self-love is whether you have any true preferences, like you really know who you are, because part of loving yourself and becoming confident in who you are is attaining a sense of direction, a gut instinct, values. And if you don't have those and you always have to outsource those, or you just shape shift based on what's happening or what's trending, all of the above in any capacity, whether it's music, food, just anything, this is going to be continuously evolving. But I found, now that I look back, when I hated myself the most, it was very difficult for me to even share who I was or what I believed in or what preferences I had, because I didn't have an identity to even hold on to. And then lastly, I would say you may just feel a general sense of numbness or low-key frustration with who you are, and you just find yourself in a constant negative thought loop about your life, what you can accomplish, who's in your life, or you're just disgusted by your own decisions. And that leads me well into the next layer, because this was the loop that I was in for a while, disgusted with my own decisions. And it doesn't have to be a disgusting decision for you to be disgusted with it. As an example, disgusted that I didn't have the balls to apply for the degree that I wanted to do, or disgusted with my actions for not going to the gym or not eating the healthy food. I would be in a constant loop every single day, multiple times a day, of disgust with my actions, because who I am now is who I'm meant to be. This version of myself, this person with grit, with discipline, who loves to get things done, to make things happen, to be the creative mind behind the brands that I'm working with. All of the little aspects of my life are so intentional and curated and feel so aligned with who I am. And everything else that I was doing when I hated myself was so disconnected from this reality. And that created that general sense of disgust, which I would say oftentimes can present itself as shame. And if you love me, I highly recommend you go on Substack and subscribe to Bonesaw MD. Her Substack is called Soul Surgery. I've been following her for years. She has really helped me with curbing out my identity in the way that I have. You'll notice if you read the works, a lot of the things I say is just literally me spewing some of the readings because I read it over and over again. But she recently came out with this body of work called Craniotomy, which dives into some of the stuff I'm sharing. And there's a part specifically on shame, which literally gave me goosebumps, because I realized I was struggling with shame. I didn't know because of these thought loops, because I was so disgusted with my actions, because they were so unaligned with who I was. A way that shame can present itself is that you'll just start spewing little white lies, not even consciously. Literally, they just spew out your mouth without you even realizing. And it honestly makes you confused, because your subconscious mind is so disoriented in who you are. It's trying to keep up with whatever random personalities and shape shifts and identities and values or whatever that you've just concocted together that don't align with who you are. I got goosebumps reading that because I related to it so heavily, and I had just had the realization that I dealt with shame, and it just so eloquently reminded me of how far I had come and how important it is to be in tune with yourself. Because if you find yourself doing something like that, why not think about it and say, why did I do that today? That was so weird. And just journal about it without judgment. It's so important to be in tune with yourself. So if you feel like in that era, before you even get into some of the practical steps that I'm going to share, just observe yourself and think about the things that you're doing and maybe why you're doing them. Try and get as deep as you can with what is the reason you did this thing that seems a little bit off-putting or unaligned. And I know how gut-wrenching it is to work through this if you feel this way, because not only is it hard to confront the emotions and feelings you have that are just embarrassing and it just hurts so bad because maybe they are a manifestation of trauma that you experienced or things that have happened in your life, because that was definitely something for me, but you must do it. You must push through and overcome. Trust me, I know how gut-wrenching it is to confront these, because it might be a cause of trauma or different things that happen to you. The way you're acting might be a manifestation of that. I completely understand that, because that was definitely the case for me. And then it makes it even worse and makes it more difficult because it requires you to change and show up as a different person. Then you have other people perceiving you and judging you because you're a different person, because the other humans like to tie you to the old version of you and who you were. Believe me, I get it. I was in that loop for so long, I couldn't fully just boom, this is who I am, because other people would share their inputs or say something or project their fears or project their insecurities or project how they view the old version of me onto me and try and keep me in that place. So I had to literally force myself to, one, let people's words or projections just roll off of my body and go through my ears and out the other side and not keep it in my head. But also I had to get comfortable with the fact that things might have happened to me out of my control that made me this way or made me think this way or made it a little bit difficult for me to go through with it. But then I had a choice with that. I could take that clarity and become someone else and work through it, or I could just stay at that place and be a victim and just wallow in my self-hatred forever and ever. For me, it felt like a better decision to accept what has happened to me and try to make the most out of my life by making the decision to do the work and not abandon myself for any longer, even though I might not have had the choice or made the decisions that got me there in the first place. So be honest with yourself first. Live as though somebody is watching you 24/7. This was like a cheat code for me. And even prior to me reading the craniotomy article that I'll link below, I did this because it helped me be honest with myself. You want to learn who you are without any applause, any approval, without nobody around. Be real with yourself. Who are you? Okay. Maybe you're a disciplined Instagram baddie that always goes to the gym, but actually you don't always go to the gym, or when you go to the gym, you don't even actually work out. You just take a picture and then do 2 things on the treadmill. Or maybe you're a boss babe and you're starting all these businesses and you do all these things and you have all this whatever online, but you're not really making money or whatever it is. Like, be honest with the true self. None of us have to know. Just be honest with yourself, the true self. Like, really write it down in a journal. Be like, okay, babe, you're capping, you're lying. And stop yourself. Stop yourself in the moment from trying to present something that's not you. That's how you're going to start the process of self-love. The second layer is to then think about why you do those things, what you're seeking, and then start to find them within yourself. Start to forgive yourself for maybe choices you've made or the things that got you to where you are, or whatever the case is. Like, you need to see yourself for who you are, forgive yourself, or work through any hard emotions or feelings that you have, and then act as though somebody is watching you. So you begin to act in a way that feels more aligned with you, or feels more aligned in who you feel you actually are meant to become. For me, the number one thing that I did to go through this process was being in more solitude, not hanging out with people or friends, or not allowing at least friends or family or other people's opinions to affect me at all. I would never entertain any sort of conversations around the things until I felt like I had sorted them out myself. I think that every human needs a strong period of solitude. I think community is important, and to figure out who you truly are, you need to be around people, but you need a period of solitude because you need to do the deep work to gut out all the things that you've been doing for years that weren't aligned with you. As they start with solitude, less inputs from other people or other things, and more reflection, more inward work. You got to do the deep thinking. Then consistently within the reflections, you're accurately self-assessing yourself. You're not being kind. Oh, it's okay, but you didn't do this. No, you be real with yourself. You said you were going to do this. You didn't do this for 14 years. Maybe it's because this person said this 10 years ago, or this thing happened to you and this caused this and that. Be honest with yourself, because no one else can be as honest with you as you can, because only you know the deep truth. Then you want to be okay with being weird. Okay, I don't do this, I don't do that, I like this, I like that. Somebody has something to say, you don't care, because it's what you like to do and it's what you align with. This was the hardest part for me, because I guess I cared so much about what people thought and I felt nobody would get it, or I don't even know. Honestly, all these weird stories we tell ourselves, who cares? Because actually what happens when you live in a way that aligns with who you are and your true preferences, you attract your tribe. You attract people who are just like you. I went through a period of solitude, lost some friends, or lost a community or people maybe that I thought were my tribe, and created a tribe now that's just like me. Who would have thought? Who would have thought it was that easy? By acting as my true self, I attracted people who I genuinely feel give me energy, and I feel elated after I hang out with them, rather than completely depleted in doing things that I didn't like to do, plus being around people who drained my energy. And then the next step I would say is you want to create proof of something. When you start to feel aligned, choose one thing that you might think might give you more self-confidence, whether it's eating a certain way or going on a solo trip or reading more, or just one act. Create proof that this is who you, maybe you make a friend doing the thing, but hopefully you're catching on. Whatever the case is, create proof by doing it consistently. That's going to give you more self-love. A big one for me is before I made a decision, before I bought something, whether it was big or small, or especially making a big decision in my life, I would always ask myself, do I like this? Is this something I actually want? Or do I want people to know that I like this? Or do I want to show up in a certain way? Maybe I do want to show up a certain way. Why do I want to show up in that way? Because that is the process that I didn't do before that made me hate myself, because I would do everything for reasons that were not aligned with me or did not relate to me in any way. And then I made way too many of those decisions, so I became a shell of myself and didn't even have a version of myself to love. When you do this enough, you reach a point where you don't have to do the consistent questions. However, sometimes randomly I'll do that. If I find myself really wanting a certain thing or trying to do something, I'm like, wait, hold up. What do we want here? When it becomes a thought loop, immediately pause. So it's not something I do constantly now, but it's a tool that I have in me, so it stops me from falling back down that path. Ask yourself, what do you want it for? Are you trying to impress people? Are you trying to impress yourself? Are you trying to make your family think you are a certain way? What is it? Always ask yourself, dig deep, reflect. You don't have to judge yourself for whatever reason it is, and then use that to make a decision in a way that reflects who you actually are. Remember what we talked about before, which is you want to act as though someone's watching at all times. If your life was a movie, what would they be saying about the choice you just made in relation to who you actually are and what will make you actually love yourself? This is quite literally how my self-talk has changed. And even in my darkest moments, beautiful, kind things will come out my mouth and I can show up as who I am fully for the most part. Obviously, it's a work in progress and there'll always be things that you might be a little bit afraid to put out there. This is how I found my tribe and gone from this person who was living basically a lie and feeling so much resentment towards myself and even other people in my life because they didn't get it. That's how I went from that to who I am today. Just literally doing these things over and over again. And that's just the process. Everything's not perfect in my life now, but I'm actually myself and I love myself, and I want that for every single woman and man watching this. So I urge you today to do the reflections, to sit in solitude and to work through these thoughts you have day in and day out until you feel the same. The process of becoming yourself again and loving yourself is slow, but it's actually one of the most important things you should be quite urgent about in your life. And it will also probably help you go get paid.